on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of A+ Morphinominal, your stop for your Power Rangers and Super Sentai review and news right here, guys, on our YouTube page, A+ Opinions. Thank you so much for joining us once again for a brand new episode. And as always, this episode is brought to you guys by JEfusion.com, one of the best Japanese entertainment blogs out there, guys. Certainly go ahead and check them out. But we are here because we are going to be getting into Super Sentai Strongest Battle, episode number 2, guys, as we had a blast watching episode 1, as we are on the road to Ryusoulger. That's going to be happening here in just a few weeks. So if you haven't subscribed to us just yet, guys, if you're looking for a home for your Ryusoulger review and news, this is certainly the place. So subscribe to us and click that bell notification so anytime we drop a brand new video, guys, you will certainly be notified. But look, we're running off fumes still from last week's episode. Anytime you tell me that there's going to be a group of Super Sentai together that are just going to have a huge tournament style battle to see who's the strongest, count me in. I am down for that each and every time. You know, look, I was a little bit hesitant deciding on reviewing this particular series, but after episode 1, man, I am so glad I did. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Let's get into what we are all here for, and that is episode 2 breakdown, as we literally jump off from where we left last week's episode, as we've got Stinger along with Igasaki left on the battlefield with an approaching Ryusoulger, as he is out to battle really the strongest person he could possibly find. But there's always a catch here. Captain Marvelous unfortunately cannot keep it in his pants, and he needs to be involved in this fight, and we see him throwing himself in this battle, quite frankly. And I'm gonna be honest, I really did want this fight sequence to be longer than what it was, because I really would like to have seen Stinger along with Igasaki face off against Ryusoulger by themselves and really see what they could do. I mean, for the most part, I feel like they're probably pretty formidable foes for Ryusoulger to go ahead and face against. So it would have been interesting to see them have the opportunity to fight a little bit longer before Captain Marvelous came in. But look, Captain Marvelous comes in. He hasn't even transformed yet. Like, he hasn't even morphed into Gokai Red whatsoever. So he's going against him in his civilian mode. No disrespect to Captain Marvelous, but come on. You should probably morph for this, right? Gets his butt beat, and then he needs to have Igasaki technically kind of sacrifice himself in order to save Captain Marvelous, which is a fantastic move. Just really goes to just show his leadership, Igasaki's leadership here, by taking the brunt of this force and saving Captain Marvelous. Even when he doesn't even know Captain Marvelous very well, he still puts himself out there to protect somebody. So I really love the showcasing that we got here of Igasaki in this week's episode. And then Ryusoulger just goes off on his own. He winds up going off and doing his own thing. And we'll certainly talk about Ryusoulger here a little bit later. But we see Igasaki, Stinger, and Captain Marvelous going back to reunite with Team Weirdo, another fantastic name. I'm so glad that they decided to go ahead and do that. But this is really the moment where you get to see people starting to butt heads a little bit, right? We've got Captain Marvelous, who for the most part hasn't even apologized to Igasaki for putting him in that situation to begin with, and Yamato knows that Captain Marvelous has not apologized whatsoever. And it's funny because I think I read in the comment section for episode 1 that how somebody was really praising Yamato for being just a fantastic sort of team leader in here. And I got to admit, like, even though I never finished Ryusoulger, I never got the opportunity to see Yamato grow. The fact that I get the opportunity to see him standing up for Igasaki in this week's episode, I absolutely loved it. He showed the fire, he showed the passion, he showed the leadership of sticking up for one of his other team members, and not being afraid to get inside of somebody's face and tell it like it is. So I really love the fact that Yamato kind of came a little bit unhinged here in the beginning of this episode this week, and really giving it to Captain Marvel and really showcasing these two characters who are very strong leaders of their group, but obviously they're leaders in their own particular different ways, in their own right. So obviously you're going to get clashes here, especially when you have such strong personalities in the room, and that's exactly what we wind up getting in here before we get to see Yamato and Captain Marvelous kind of go on their own routes here in this week's episode, because we wind up quickly seeing Captain Marvelous just winds up leaving, and then right behind him goes Igasaki, who decides, I'm going to go ahead and cheer up Captain Marvelous, and then quickly followed by Kagura, who is smart enough to go along with Igasaki just to make sure he doesn't make matters worse than they certainly already are. So this is really where we leave our team members. Oh, and I believe Stinger actually bounces also to kind of do some investigative work of his own, really leaving Yamato up to his own devices and really all by himself. So we quickly see here in the beginning Yamato really all along trying to figure out how to get this team sort of back together in a sense. Quick honorable mention though does have to go out to Ryusoulger. Let's talk about him for just a second, because he does immediately, after he leaves the battlefield, he immediately pops up in front of Rita, still looking as cute as can be, quite frankly, but Rita has something up her sleeves, and I'm really curious to find out exactly what it is. But Ryusoulger actually approaches Rita, who's quite surprised, certainly didn't expect him to be there, but the one thing that I certainly wasn't expecting is the fact that Ryusoulger actually has an invitation to this particular tournament, something I certainly was not expecting. So the plot thickens and the mystery thickens as to who the person under the armor could certainly be, to where he would even get himself a ticket in the first place. I do have a theory, so bear with me here. So Rita does decide to go ahead and allow Ryusoulger to go ahead and become a part of the tournament, but he's kind of like not even in his own bracket, right? Like he's in the tournament, but it's more or less like, we're just gonna use you as the wild card, right? Like anytime that there's a battle that's going on that's boring as hell, that nobody really wants to watch, we're just gonna throw you in there to make things more exciting. So Ryusoulger doesn't even have a bracket. He doesn't have to beat anybody to kind of keep moving on. This guy's literally just being thrown into any situations, which, hey, I absolutely love. I don't mind seeing Ryusoulger face off against other Super Sentai team members whatsoever. The action is always fantastic in this series. It's something I'm definitely learning very, very quickly. But it does add the mystery behind who this character is. So later on in this episode, when we see Igasaki coming face to face with Ryusoulger and being taken out very, very easily, and then Ryusoulger shows up again at the end of the episode where his mask is taken off and it's Igasaki underneath the armor, which we know for a fact that Ryusoulger is not Igasaki. It would not make sense. These two characters have fought each other in the beginning of this episode. So how did Igasaki get this armor onto him? So it's almost really the mystery of the armor. I believe the episode this week was called like the March of the Mysterious Armor. So maybe this armor is just jumping to and from different characters. Like the fact that we didn't see Luca in the beginning of this episode 1 fighting with Captain Marvelous, but he used Luca's ability. Maybe Luca was under the armor at that time. We see Ryusoulger in this episode using Igasaki's move, and then we come to find out Igasaki is under the armor. So maybe this armor is sort of like this weird ancient symbiote in a sense. Like I automatically think of Venom, like this armor that can kind of attach itself to whoever it wants to, and using their body and their techniques to kind of enhance their the armor's ability that it has already. So I'm wondering if this armor is just under some sort of like ancient spell. Maybe there is a soul that's already embodied inside of this sort of ancient armor, and it allows itself to move to other people whenever they're defeated. I'm not quite sure, but that's a theory that I have, and I'm really excited to kind of see how it winds up playing itself out. So I'm going to go with like an ancient symbiotic Night Soul. Let's just say that. I'm just going to go with that. So I'm thinking that's who Luca was in the very beginning. That's who Ryusoulger probably was Luca, because we didn't see Luca as part of the Gokaiger team whatsoever. And now we got Igasaki popping up out of nowhere with the armor on him as well. So I'm excited to kind of see how that winds up developing a little further. But let's go ahead and get back to Yamato here for just a moment, because now that Yamato's all alone, the next battle is in fact up, and it's meant to be a 3-on-3 battle. But because of the fact that nobody is around, and I think also the fact that Yamato at this point is having a hard time trusting the other people fighting beside him to think that they could possibly win, I think I think that's another reason why he decides to go along, why he decides to go ahead and go alone. But you know what, man? I gotta tell you, this battle sequence was absolutely amazing. The fact that Yamato has the balls to go up against 3 other Rangers, who no slouches, mind you. They also have another red leader on their team also that knows how to put it down if he needs to. So the fact that he goes up against these 3 by himself, impressive. impressive. Again, I'll go back to this comment that somebody in the comment section of last week's episode talking really highly of Yamato. I got to tell you, no better episode in here to really showcase who Yamato is as a leader, as well as a fighter. Just the incredible passion, his determination. I love the fact that we also get to finally learn what his wish is. Now, I'm not familiar with this young boy that he was referring to in Takaki. We do see here that Yamato grew very closely to a young boy who seemingly was very, very ill. The boy simply only had one wish, and that was really just to be in the wilderness, to be around other animals. And considering really the love that Yamato has, not only for the planet and the animals, but he decided he was going to take it upon himself to grant this kid his wish and take him out into the wilderness so he can experience all this stuff. But unfortunately, before Yamato is able to do that, unfortunately, Takaki winds up passing away, and unfortunately was not able to live that dream that he wind up having. So this is really the wish that Yamato has, is to revive his soul, this young kid's soul, and give him just that one last opportunity to really experience and just everything that he's always wanted to. So very moving, very touching wish. I can honestly see why Ichiro would kind of move out of the way in last week's episode and allow him to go ahead and move further along. But it wasn't happening this time. His moving along wasn't going to be this easy. He was going to have to prove himself as to why he deserved that wish, and he certainly did. I mean, the fact that he single-handedly is able to take everybody out is impressive in and of itself. And the fact that we have the Gao Red in here, I love that they wind up showcasing him in this week's episode, and the fantastic speech and monologue that he winds up giving Yamato about the importance of how to be a leader when it comes to a Super Sentai team. The fact that you have to have passion, because that passion will drive the others to learn how to trust you, and at the same time push them to go ahead and be better as well. And so, I mean, really, all he says is, as a Red Ranger, sometimes it's probably easier because only thing that you have to do is just go wild, right? Like, just be passionate, and just do what it is that you do best, and the rest will certainly follow you. And I gotta say, in Yamato, from what I've learned about Yamato in just these 2 episodes alone, he certainly seems as though he certainly has the passion to be a great Red Ranger. So this episode alone actually might have me want to go back and check out Ryusoulger also, just to see how Yamato winds up growing as a character. So I really loved how he was showcased in here, and the fact that even though he did this by himself, he still had the rest of the team when everybody came back together rooting him on and supporting him. So I thought that was absolutely marvelous. Let's just say that. We get the opportunity to see Igasaki really doing his best in here after Marvelous has left, to really try and put a smile on his face, get him back into the idea of coming back to the team, really kind of allowing to hopefully get some of the stress relief off of his shoulders. So Igasaki really does do his best. Look, the elbow and the butt, what did he say? He's like, look, it's a butt or something like that, like the butt thing, the gyoza with the ear thing. Like, they both made me laugh and chuckle, quite frankly, so I'm not even mad at Captain Marvelous for laughing at that, because I chuckled too, I gotta be honest with you. But I just love that scene in here. It's one of those things where it's like Igasaki's personality can sometimes be either annoying or extremely infectious, and there are times when you need that sort of sense of humor and when you need his sort of personality around, and so I thought he was just really a perfect fit for this particular scene, and getting Captain Marvelous to kind of open up a little bit, smile, maybe soften up a little bit. We do see very briefly in here Captain Marvelous speaking with the Go Rangers. Looks like Aka Ranger wind up actually giving him his ability and his power, telling him to go ahead and gather up all the Super Sentai abilities. So it seems as though that's certainly part of his story here, most likely for this particular tournament. So I'm excited to kind of see where that sort of thing kind of takes him, as he winds up really thinking about his treasures and the thing that he's certainly trying to accomplish. So I really did appreciate here that sequence that we wind up getting here in this scene. And then towards the end, we wind up getting Ryusoulger returning once again and getting a Captain Marvelous and Ryusoulger battle once again here in this week's episode. This time, though, we do see Captain Marvelous taking the upper hand and really being smart this time around by changing his costumes, changing his abilities up very quickly to kind of keep Ryusoulger off of of his feet. But unfortunately, at the end of this episode, we do see exactly who Ryusoulger is in fact revealed to be, which the plot certainly thickens. The mystery is certainly still there. It's definitely not Igasaki, so we'll definitely have to see exactly who it is as this particular miniseries continues. But I thought that was really fascinating. A quick honorable mention, though, does go out to Stinger, who for the most part, ever since he's got to this particular planet, has always felt a little bit uneasy, a little bit uncertain that there's more going on than they're certainly letting on. The fact that he can't get any sort of signal off of this planet, he's realizing that there are in fact like barriers that are in place to where you can't get off the planet, or you can only go but so far. I believe he bumps into another ranger in the beginning in episode 1 who talks about the idea of like maybe magic being involved also. So there is something fishy currently going on here on this planet, and so Stinger does do his own investigative work. And so while he does find this, like, I don't want to call it a lab, an office, or whatever the case may be, he does discover this very ancient sort of mysterious plant that seemingly is like either devouring energy or putting energy out into this planet, or whatever the case may be. It's allowing this tournament to certainly happen. It does wind up coming across just like a bunch of different books that have like all the information about several different Super Sentai teams. I don't know what it is that he discovered, but you can certainly bet I would not be surprised if next week's episode everything winds up really coming to fruition and being revealed for us before we get into the final episode. So and last but not least, we actually did see our Ryusoulgers in here very, very briefly, where it looks like they finally got inside of the cave. We get introduced to brand new real souls that they can certainly use. So I believe we see like an extend soul, we see a speed soul, and there's another soul that I cannot remember. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he does pick up the speed soul, and then the other real soul Black winds up picking up another soul, but unfortunately it doesn't work, so he winds up putting it back. It's like an orange colored one, so I'm kind of curious to see if there's going to be further developments with that particular real soul that didn't work in his sword. And it was super brief. They didn't really do anything too important besides introduce us to some of the real souls. And I'm assuming each of those souls that go into the sword will give them different abilities that they can certainly use. So that was kind of fun to kind of learn here in this episode. Look, I love the first episode. I love this second episode. Bring on episode 3. I'm ready and pumped for it. But I definitely want to know what you guys think. Again, if there's any battle sequence that you saw in this week's episode that you were impressed with, please go ahead and let me know. Also, guys, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to us here on our YouTube page. Click that bell notification button so anytime we drop a brand new video, you will certainly be notified. Check us out also on our Instagram page, our Twitter account, and Facebook. And until next time, guys, Real So Cool!